How can I know if my intention is to love the other person, or if I'm only doing good to the other person in order to be loved back? How does one become a person who gives himself selflessly without ulterior motives? First, I just want to say, I love the honesty of this person's question. Right? This is someone who's kind of opening it up and saying, okay, what's really going on in there? I see wheat and I see weeds, and they're kind of intertwined, and how do I know the difference? It's a great question, and JP2 talks about it at great length in his Theology of the Body. He says, we have been called to a mature evaluation in understanding the inner movements of our hearts. Right? What constitutes a movement of my heart that honors the great mystery of human sexuality, the dignity of the person, the call to love? And what constitutes a movement of my heart that is just, in it for myself, to grasp at something, to use that other person for my own selfish pleasure? He says these different movements of the heart can sometimes be confused with one another. And sometimes they're all intertwined and intertangled. And we shouldn't be too quick, Jesus says, to want to yank out those weeds, because when they're intertwined with the wheat, guess what else is going to come out? The wheat. How do we become a person who loves from that selfless place? We have to let Jesus, the divine physician, do that work within us of helping us distinguish and disentangle the wheat and the weeds. And just speaking from my own experience, I've been at that serious journey since 1990. I started taking the Christian life very seriously. And that's a long time ago. And guess what? I'm still on that journey. And there's still plenty of weeds in there, and there's still plenty of entanglement in there. And I'm on that journey. And that's the journey we got to go on, to let the Lord in there. This is certainly a hopeful and working principle along the way of that journey. Right? The more we learn to open to divine love and let it come into those places in there, and let it rearrange the furniture, so to speak, the more we find that divine love is flowing through us to others. And we come to a distastefulness when we slip into selfishness, when we slip into treating others as objects. We can taste it sour in our mouth the more we're on this journey. So, initially, when we're not making these discernments, we can confuse using one another for delight and sweetness, and there's a certain gratification we get out of that. John Paul II talks about this. He says, the pleasure we take in a selfish gratification is one thing, but the joy we experience in learning to be a gift to another in a selfless way, that's something other. That's something altogether different. And it's a lasting joy. And as we cleanse our palate and form our palate to the different tastes of that, using becomes very sour, very distasteful. Loving, even if it hurts, even if it costs us, becomes very sweet, very sweet.